this, all right? Thank you so much. All
You're
right.
welcome.
So I think a bunch of people would have killed me if I didn't record this. So if you're on 60 meters, okay, upper sideband, 80 meters up lower sideband. So the software is intelligent enough to switch. Do you have to be there technically? No. You can actually talk to people all over the place. That's been my experience anyway, but that's where they want you to be. On the test, for the purposes of the test, it's exactly what my study sheet says, okay? So go by that. But anyway, so that's what that sideband mumbo jumbo is all about, okay? All right, cool. And
So Joe, with your transmitter, I mean your receiver or what, you have to select that then, you know, if you're going from band to band?
Yeah, most radios do it for you automatically. Most modern radios do that for you automatically. And the software certainly does, but you should know the rules. And again, they're kind of officially unofficial rules. So yes, we should be on, you know, on 20 meters. We should be on lower sideband. Does it always happen that way? No. Let me see if I can find somebody. So we're on 20 meters at the moment. Let me just tune my radio here. Hold on a second. Okay. Let me go to 40 meters, actually. That's a little bit better. See if we can find somebody. So at the beginning of the band, generally, these are CW in digital modes, and maybe we'll be lucky enough to catch one. Might be a little early for that. And the weather's crummy here in New York. But anyway, I don't know that we're going to be successful. We'll try it later. But if you switch this to upper sideband, yeah, this is a RIDI signal. Okay, so again, the rules are specifically on, for example, on 20 meters, you should be on upper sideband, and the radios most times will switch for you, but not always. The point is, I want you to understand the idea of upper sideband and lower sideband. It's just having the modulation on either one side, on the lower side or the upper side of the carrier. Okay, that's what that means. All right, cool. So the book very briefly talks about frequency and phase modulation. So frequency modulation is how many times a signal goes up and down in a given period of time, okay? And phase modulation, we're going to get into phase modulation. I don't like the way this is explained. They say that phase modulation is very close to frequency modulation, but there is a difference. So we'll talk about that a little bit later. So just understand that another way of introducing the modulation would be frequency modulation, hence FM, frequency modulation, as opposed to AM radio, amplitude modulation. So we can change modulation in a variety of different ways. That's the point. Okay? Any questions? We good? All right, cool. And then somebody had asked a question about the band edge. You know, you got to be careful when you're transmitting not to fall off the edge of the band. So this is my little cursor here. If I go down to here, we don't want to get past this. Now this software is pretty intelligent, doesn't let you get past that, but on some radios you can tune past the band edge. Most modern radios are intelligent enough to say, well, you can listen, but you can't transmit. Okay. One other very important thing I wanted to discuss with you, there is one band where phone is a no-no. No, 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 no. And that's 30 meter, okay? This band here, okay? So you can use it, okay? Believe it or not, a lot of hams, a lot of amateur radio operators don't think that you can be on there. You actually can be on there, okay? The issue is you cannot use phone, Okay, so no voice. So 30 meters, phono, no-o. Okay, please make note of that. It is a question on your test. Guaranteed or double your money back. Okay, so absolutely no question it'll be on your test. There are 5 different type of exams that are given, and this is on, I believe, all 5 of them. Okay, so I'm going to ask you over and over again, you know, what band can you not use phone? The answer is, Peng, what's the answer? Where can you not use phone?
30.
Yeah, Miranda, where can you not use phone?
Oh, 10:30.
That's it. And I'm going to ask the troublemaker of the group, which is Linda, of course. Hi, Linda. Linda doesn't want to talk to me because I called her the troublemaker.
Do you mean Lisa?
No, I meant Linda.
Okay, go find Linda.
Okay. You know what? She's playing hard to get. Lisa, how are you? Lisa, I have you in twice. Lisa, so what can't you use phone on? Say 30 meters. All right, cool. All right, so that's the deal. Please remember that. It's on your study sheet, and it's very important. Okay, cool. And then this page describes how much bandwidth, how much space you're taking up for each type of system, right? So AM voice uses 6 kilohertz. AM broadcast uses 10 kilohertz, so forth and so on. Notice that single sideband voice uses very little, okay? Big difference, okay, between FM. It's tiny, okay? Single sideband, CW. CW is the most efficient, okay? So Morse code uses the least amount of space. It travels the furthest. That's why people still use CW quite a bit, okay? Look at single sideband, okay, compared to FM voice. Huge difference, right? And also you get the efficiency that your signal travels further, and you can do more with it, okay? You can clean it up and a whole bunch of other stuff, okay? So the signal is much more concentrated in single sideband. That's why it's used so commonly, okay? All right, guys who love to, ladies and gentlemen who love to talk to foreign places, you know, they're called DXers. DX stands for long distance, and you can hear them all over the place, and they try to go as far as they possibly can. And there are awards that you can get for working all the states, working all the countries, working 100 countries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, okay? These are the general rules here, okay, on when to use upper and lower sidebands. And again, it's a convention, okay, and that's what you need to know for the exam. In reality, I don't know that it's so exclusive. I've heard people all over the place that should be on upper sideband, lower sideband. You know, their airwaves do get busy, especially at contest times or something. Linda, I can hear you, but not able to hear me. That's okay, Linda. I forgive you. Okay, cool. Radio equipment basics. They have this diagram. So this was Christopher Columbus's radio when he discovered the Americas, okay? And it had a separate transmitter and a separate receiver, and it had a separate switch. We don't use that anymore. Everything is combined into one. But inside that radio, this model still exists. So we have a transmitter function, we have a receiver function, and we have something to switch between the two. That's our PTT, push to talk button. Okay, so when we hit the button to transmit, it switches from receiver mode to transmitter mode. Okay? And they have this quirky little thing about people calling antennas skyhooks. I don't know if that's true, okay? I've talked to a lot of ham radio guys. I have yet, very rarely do I hear the term skyhook. I hear them as antennas, okay? All right, cool. Repeaters. We're going to, at the end of this chapter, I'm going to skip past this for a second, because at the end of this, I want to discuss repeaters in detail. The reason I ask you to do that is here in the Northeast, actually the whole eastern coast of the United States, we're expecting Hurricane Joaquin to show up, okay? The weather here in New York has turned miserable. I want to give you a lesson on repeaters, how to use them, where to find them, that kind of stuff. And I want to do that before we meet again, which is next Tuesday, just in case. You never know. So at least you can listen in on repeaters and see what's going on, okay? So Superstorm Sandy was not a hurricane, and what they're expecting now is a Category 3 hurricane. So, you know, I went out and bought water and made sure my cars are full of gas and my generator is working, because I don't trust Nassau County to do anything for me. We live in Nassau County pays the highest per capita taxes of any place in the United States, even over Beverly Hills, and yet they're totally unprepared for this kind of event. So I want to make sure everybody at least knows how to work the repeaters, and they're fun. Okay. All right. Cool. So this is the basic radio. Not HT, so your walkie-talkie style, we call them HTs, handy-talkies, okay? So a radio that sits on your desktop looks like this, okay? You have the transceiver over here, which is the actual radio, okay? You have a separate power supply. That will be a question on your exam. Why do we use a separate power supply? The answer is because power companies bite the big one, okay? That's the reason. They totally lie, okay? They'll tell you that they're supplying 115 volts. They're not. Sometimes it's 105. Sometimes it's 122. They're not very good at it, okay? Additionally, inside the power supplies, there are large capacitors, which we'll discuss in the next chapter. They smooth out the power so that the transceivers get nice power. What I do is I hook up my power supply to a UPS, computer UPS, so that the power that it gets is even a little cleaner, and I've never had a problem in all of the years. So we use a separate power supply because of voltage fluctuations, because the power companies lie to us, and they're just horrible people. So anyway, that's the reason. Power amplifier, you can, okay? You can go up to 1.5 kilowatts if you want. You will not find one of these in my house ever. Remember, I am a QRP guy, and as Lisa O'Brien will tell us, QRP means, what does QRP mean, Lisa?
The answer to that would be ask Linda.
All right, Linda, you can type. What does it mean, Linda? No amps. Oh, no amps. Well, yeah, you're partially right. QRP means low power, okay? Remember, I'm a QRP guy. If you get that question wrong on the exam, you never heard of me, okay? QRP, low power. I normally transmit at about 5 watts, okay? Actually, QRP technically means, should I reduce my power? Sometimes you're pretty close to another station, and they'll say, please go QRP, reduce your power. But in normal, everyday ham speak, QRP means I use low power. So I don't use any amps. You can use an amp if you so desire. And let me see if I can, hold on one second here, and find, what did I do with this? Let's see. All right, so this is a gentleman who is not a QRPer, okay? And this is a station in Texas, which I had the pleasure of working with a long time ago. Can you imagine? So the reason he has all these radios is he has family on Saturn that he must speak to on a regular basis, so he needs all this junk, okay? Not me. I like stuff that fits in a backpack and is light, So this is definitely not QRP. So the opposite of this is QRP. Okay. All right, and then we can use a straight key. I'll show you what they look like next class. For sending Morse code, microphone, and speaker, and for the heavy-duty guys, headphones. Especially if you're going to work DX, you're going to work long distance, having the headphones, you can really hear what's going on. A lot of amateur radio is just listening. Okay? Any questions? Are we good? Everybody's good? No questions? Oh, fantastic. I did a heck of a job. Okay, so we talked about...
I'm sorry, I have a question.
Sure, go ahead. Don't be sorry. Questions are good.
Yeah, when people talk internationally in the world, is there like an international language of English or not? You know, like when like you do if you're a pilot, where anyone on the radio worldwide, no matter what country, English is the international language. But
yeah, the international language is English.
Okay.
It's serious. I'm not being funny. It's English. So your license requires that you have to communicate in English. Okay. So
Okay.
for us in the United States, since we're governed by the FCC, we want to talk to somebody in France or Spain or whatever, it's still in English. Okay.
But does that mean they also speak English?
Within their country, no. Okay. But if they want to talk to somebody in the United States, they must speak English, exactly like a pilot. Okay.
Okay.
Think of it that way. Yeah. So if you have a Air France pilot flying into Kennedy, okay, they will have to speak English. Now, technically, the rule says that you have to identify in English, and I don't think anybody's going to get too upset if you happen to speak French. If you have a couple of, sentences or a couple of transactions, communications in French, but you must identify every 10 minutes, okay, in English. All right? So follow the pattern of the pilots. That'll keep you out of trouble, okay? All right, cool. So we're going to stop here for a second. We're not going to go to Chapter 2 just yet. And the reason is, let's see if Joe Giacinto signed in. Joe is a dear friend of mine. He lives in Mineola, which is a couple of towns away from me. And he hasn't signed in. All right, but anyway, we're going to do this anyway. All right, so remember last time we talked about simplex versus repeaters, right? And the difference between, Eric, the difference between simplex and a repeater is what? What's the difference? You remember?
And receives on the same channel, the other one splits it.
Correct. So simplex, we're on the same channel. Repeater, we transmit on one channel and we receive on another. Okay? Okay. Let's talk about this. Hold on. All right, so we're on this. Let me tune to, this happens to be my club's repeater, okay? And it's one of the most powerful, or the widest, not most powerful, but has the greatest coverage on the East Coast, certainly, perhaps maybe with a country. And if you look at the frequencies that we're on, okay, so this is megahertz, right? Then there's a period, and then this is kilohertz, okay? And then this is RIT, receiver incremental tuning. That's even finer tuning than that. So we're on 146 megahertz, 850 kilohertz, or we abbreviate it 146.850, okay? And as Leslie will tell us, we're on what? 2 meter or 70 centimeter? What do you say, Leslie? 2 meter, 70 centimeter?
Oh, sorry, I couldn't unmute. 2 meter.
2 meter, excellent, excellent job. Hey, Leslie, stay with me for a second. Are we on 2 meter or 70 centimeter?
70 centimeter.
Awesome, awesome job, awesome job. Okay, so here are the general rules, okay? If I'm able to, let me make sure nobody's on here. Hold on. Somebody's on here. All right, I'm going to go to this repeater. All right, nobody's on. If I hit the transmit button, watch what happens here, okay? If I hit the transmit button, okay? Watch what happens here. Ready? Nothing, right? That 147 stayed the same, okay? What changed was this guy here. See where I am? Now watch, I'm going to hit transmit. Okay? If I go to, make sure nobody's here, if I go here to 70 centimeter, watch which one changes. Ready? I'm going to hit transmit. Okay? You saw that the change was here. Okay? So, the general rule of thumb, okay, and this is kind of universal. I don't know that there are any exceptions, okay? On 2 meter, okay, the shift is 600 kilohertz. 600 kilohertz. Let me make sure nobody's on. Yep. Watch. It'll go down by 600. Okay? So it went down from 800 to 600. Okay? If I go to 70 centimeter, watch what happens. And we're going to be looking here, right? Watch what happens. It changed by 5 megahertz. Okay? So, the rule of thumb here is, okay, so you need to know a couple of things to activate a repeater. Okay? And the first thing you need to know is, as soon as I drag my word over here and get rid of this drawing, okay, so if you're on 2 meter, come on mouse, here we go. If I'm on 2 meter, can everybody see that okay? 2 meter, it's going to be 600 kilohertz change. And that change can be either plus or minus. It can go up 600 or down 600, okay? If I'm on 70 centimeter, okay, the change is going to be 5 megahertz plus or minus. Okay? So, that's the general rule of thumb for 2 meter, 70 centimeter. Okay? So that's the first thing you need to know. Okay? And you're going to need to know a couple of other pieces of information. The next thing you're going to need to know is the receiving frequency for the repeater. Okay? So you need to know the receiving frequency, what that is, whatever that is, and you're going to need to know another thing called the PL tone, also known as the CTCSS tone. Okay? It's a lock. What that is, it's just like a key to your front door. Okay? It prevents other things from coming in. Okay? So you must have these pieces of information. Okay? So you need, this is known as the offset. These two guys are known as the offset. And then you need to know what the receiving frequency is, and you need to know what the PL tone or the CTCSS is. Okay? That's the way you access a repeater. And I know for a fact, okay, the Miranda's about to ask me, I can hear it, Joe, how do I know where the repeaters are? Miranda, go ahead, ask me. Go ahead, ask me. That was a great punchline. Miranda didn't play along. Okay. Patrick, aren't you interested to know how to find repeaters? Oh, Miranda.
Sorry, how do you find repeaters?
You know, I thought you'd never ask. I never thought you'd ask, okay? All right, cool. It's really hard to find repeaters, okay? What you do is you go to Google or Yahoo and you type in ham radio repeaters, okay? And this gives you a gigantic list of repeaters. This happens to be a great one, right? So this finds repeaters. You can point at your state or you can type in your zip code. My zip code happens to be 11801. Or actually, I know where my repeater, we'll use mine. And you hit search now, and it gives you a list of all of the repeaters, okay? This is the output frequency. This is the receiving frequency. Can everybody see that okay? Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger here. I'm going to try. Okay, so if you look here, this is the receiving frequency. And you see there's a minus on there, okay? And then over here is a minus, and over here is a plus, and over here is a plus, and over here. What does that mean? It means that that offset is either positive or negative, right? Following the rules that we had, let's take this repeater. Let's take this repeater here, right? So if we wanted to access this repeater, okay, number one, let me take a better example. Let's take this repeater here. Let's take this repeater here. It's a little bit easier. So this repeater, I would dial in 443525, okay? It has a plus shift. Since it's on 70 centimeters, I know that the offset is 5 megahertz, and it's 5 megahertz up, plus. So when I hit the transmit button, this should turn into 448325. Everybody understand that? And then the last piece of information is the PL tone, or the CTCSS tone. And you also put that into your radio. That's the key to get in. There are 52 of these codes. Okay?
Joe, when you have a moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
A minor confusion on my part.
Sure.
What determines the offset? The meter band that you're on, or
Yes.
the fact that you are or not using a repeater?
Well, the fact that you're not are not using a repeater. So if you're not using a repeater, you're only typing in simplex. First of all, you can't use this frequency because it's being used by the repeater. Right. You would pick another frequency that's not on this list necessarily in my area, and you can use simplex, no problem. You don't need to know anything else. Just I turn my radio to whatever frequency you tell me, and we're talking. No problem.
Okay. So if
you
one is
want
true, the other is always true.
Yeah. If you want to use a repeater, then you have to play in that sandbox, and you have to you dial in the output or the receiving frequency. You have to determine whether the shift is plus or minus, and then it can either be on 2 meter or 70 centimeter. On 70 centimeter, it's 5 megahertz, either up or down. Sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. It depends. On 2 meters, it's either up 600 or down 600 kilohertz, right? And then I would also need to know the PL tone. All right? Does everybody understand that? Without those pieces of information, you will never access a repeater. Okay? So you need to know the receiving frequency, the offset, and they won't tell you at 600 or 5 megahertz. They expect you to know that. Okay? All they'll tell you is plus or minus a lot of the time. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they put a minus 600, or they put a, minus 600, or they do a plus, 5,000 kilohertz, which is 5 megahertz, and then they'll give you this PL or CTCSS tone. Okay? Does everybody understand how that works? Hang into that idea a little bit, and we'll talk about it when we talk about repeaters in detail.
Joe,
Okay?
can you hear me?
Sure.
Joe, can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can.
It's still a little confusing. I was wondering where in Chapter 2 specifically we could read up on that a little further so I could soak that up a little more.
Actually, it's in Chapter 5.
Oh, it's in 5.
The reason I wanted you to know this information is because half of our class is on the East Coast, okay? We're expecting this really horrific storm, maybe, this weekend, okay? Yeah. And if power goes out, I want everybody here to know how to get to the next closest repeater, okay?
Understand, okay.
So, last time we didn't have phones for 2 weeks. So
I know how it works, man.
yeah, I know you do. I know you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
heaven forbid, somebody needs an ambulance or something.
That's right.
I'm not suggesting you ever use your radios without a license, but if you have to, you have to. Okay. We'll read about that in Chapter 7. Okay. Again, I certainly do not condone, nor do I expect you ever to use your ham radios without a license. That's a major no-no. But I at least want you to know how to access repeaters if you have to. Okay. Another thing you can do is just Google, or in my case Yahoo. Okay. For example, where your closest Aries is. Now here, I live in Nassau County. Okay, so I would type in Nassau County Aries, Amateur Radio Emergency Service. Okay, and here I am. Okay, and then if you go to the net section, it identifies where these nets are. So right here, it tells you the output frequency, listening frequency, the offset, and the PL tone. Okay, and where it's located. If that doesn't work, you can always dial a simplex. Okay, there is a national calling frequency on 2 meter. Okay, on 2 meter, that frequency is 146.520. Okay, and what that means is you don't have to put in any of this stuff. Just tune in your radio 146.520, and sooner or later you'll hear somebody. It's the national simplex calling frequency. Okay. Again, I handled this now because in case there's an emergency and you have nothing else to rely on, our motto is ham radio always gets through. Okay. So you just type in Google Aries in your county, and you'll find where Aries is. Okay. Right now, because of the storm, we go up in levels. So so it goes from 1 being the least important to 5 to a full-blown emergency, and we're at level 3 at the particular moment in time. The director of this Aries just moved us up from level 2 to level 3, and that's where we are at the moment. So, okay, I wanted you to just get an overview of how repeaters work. Are we okay with this?
Yes.
Okay. Lou reminded me that there are some exceptions, but I don't want to get into the exceptions right now. I don't want to totally confuse you. Okay?
I have a question.
Again, yes, go ahead.
Where on the screen does it say we're at level 3?
It doesn't, because you're not an Aries member. You're not a Nassau County Aries member. I am. My wife happens to be the assistant emergency coordinator, or the emergency coordinator for Oyster Bay, which is the general town that we live in. And she and Dave and the Red Cross and a whole bunch of people above my pay grade decide to take it between 2 and 3. They sent me an email.
You can go to you can follow the National Weather Service also on their website, or go to NOAA.com and November Oscar Alpha.com, and that'll give you updates all along.
Right, that's true. What this will do is, for example, when we had Superstorm Sandy, there was no gasoline. There was gasoline, there was just no electricity for the pumps to work. If you monitor this, they told us which gas stations were open, who had ice, who had food. We didn't have anything, okay? They would tell us that the mall was open, so if we go to the mall, we could charge our cell phones. So it's much more information from a local, personal point of view than the Weather Service is, okay? There's also a national weather frequency, 162.55 megahertz, okay? And you can listen only, and it's a recorded system, so if you just want the weather, you can go there. Aries is important because they'll provide you with more personalized service. Since they're specific to your area, they will provide you with, hey, this gas station is open, this guy has ice, this guy has whatever, and it's a bunch of volunteers. They run around and they figure out what's where, okay? Additionally, heaven forbid, you have an emergency and you're licensed and you have a problem. Heaven forbid your neighbor has a heart attack or something. You can pick up the radio when there's no phone, say break, break. I need an ambulance, and one will be forthcoming. Okay? So that's the difference between that and just regular weather. All right? So I just wanted to make you guys aware of this. All right, cool. Let's go back to the map. All right. And of course, the guy I specifically did it for isn't signed in, so we'll move on. Anyway, all right, Chapter 3, Electricity Components and Circuits, okay? So we're going to talk about basic circuitry, what makes things work. Remember that the difference here is, as opposed to CB or FRMS or one of the other radios, is we work with relatively lots of power, okay? And we don't want you to get hurt. We just don't want you to get hurt. So it's important that you have a basic understanding of very basic electronics. I'm not going to get into the whole, into more depth of it. If you're interested in learning more about electronics, I suggest you take the general exam or general class, or take the extra, okay? All right, cool. So they define electrical current, represented in the equations by the symbol I. Why not C, okay, or E or something else? And the reason is it comes from the French term, and all the other good letters were taken, okay? That's the reason. So a current is just electrons flowing. That's it. That's all it means, okay? And it's measured in amperes, okay, which is abbreviated as A, okay? Current is always measured as the flow through something, such as wire or an electric component, okay? So they also talk about all of this stuff, which you don't really need to know at this point, but they talk about voltage. And voltage is the electromotive force. It's difficult for me to truly define electromotive force at this level, so just know that it is a force that has electrons flowing through it. And actually the voltage is what makes those electrons move through the wire, okay? One of the few diagrams that this manual has that I love is this, okay? This really explains it pretty well, okay? So here, pressure, so this is water, I guess, or some other liquid, and this is an electrical circuit. So the pressure in a hose, right? That would be equivalent to the voltage. You think of how much pressure you're putting through, okay? And how much you flow is the current, or the amp. That's why the old saying is, it's not the voltage that kills you, it's the current that kills you, okay? And I have something to show you kind of what it looks like as soon as I find it. All right, cool. So we have this guy, okay? And he made a little water gun out of PVC pipe. Now, my son loves to do this, and I actually measured the pressure here. So the pressure here was 50 pounds per square inch, okay? While this kid's getting wet, he's not getting hurt, okay? So as opposed to this guy, let's see, as opposed to this guy, same 50 pounds per pressure, but it knocked him down, okay? What made the difference? Well, the difference was the volume of water, okay? And that's what amps are, how many electrons we move at one time, okay? So the more amps we draw, or the more amps we're working with, the bigger the hose. Does everybody understand that? Okay? Voltage, I don't really care about too much, okay? So that's why these guys come on, America's Got Talent, and they're playing with Faraday cages and all of this stuff. 20,000 volts, not so important. What's important is the amperage. So the amperage will kill you. The voltage, that kind of stuff. All right? You got to be very careful with the amperage. All right? Everybody got that? So amperage is how many electrons we're pushing at one time, how big the hose is, and voltage. And voltage is just the flow of electrons. All right, cool. All right, cool. Two types of circuits. Okay, so the flow of electrons through wire or some other conductive media is called a circuit. Two types. There is parallel and serial. okay? This one on top is parallel, okay? And this has been the bane of my existence for as long as I can remember. What's a perfect example of a series circuit? Does anybody know? I'll give you a hint, okay? If this light bulb goes out, think about it. If this light bulb goes out, they all go out. Exactly. So if this light bulb goes out.
A series circuit is like.
I'm sorry? I didn't hear that whole thing.
A series circuit is like your typical Christmas lights, the old Christmas lights. When one went out, the whole strand went out.
Exactly correct. So those real cheap, the real cheap light bulbs that you buy at Sears or Home Depot or something, you know, $1.99 for 7 million light bulbs, they're in series. And then there's always one that's broken because your wife tells you to put it away for next year. You're not throwing those out. And then you take it out next year and it's this big ball of mush. And of course, one bulb is broken. And which bulb is it? It's always the last bulb, okay? Scientifically proven, okay? So another way to look at this is, I don't know if you guys have IKEA. You guys have IKEA where you are?
Yes.
Yeah, do you? Okay, so IKEA, I love that store. The ultimate in marketing, right? So if I want to go and I want to look at bedroom sets here, okay, I just can't walk in here and go here. No, 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 nay, nay, okay? You have to go through here, and you have to go look at living rooms, and then you have to go through here, and you have to go through storage and workspaces, and you have to go through kitchens and dining, and then my wife stops here, we need to change our chairs. Oh, look at this bedroom lamp, honey, and finally we get to where we want to go. So this is very, very close to a
fire hazard.
A death trap, I think. So that's what a series circuit would look like, okay? In contrast to that, okay, we have my favorite store, Home Goods or Macy's or anything else. We walk in the front door, okay, and my wife says, oh, look at the china plates. Meanwhile, I'm looking at something else down here. No problem, okay? We can go wherever we want, okay, within the confines of the aisles. So that is a parallel circuit, okay? Very, very simple to understand, okay? Here in this drawing, you'll notice that the bulbs are hooked up in parallel. Should this bulb go out, okay, no problem, okay? The other bulbs stay lit. And you take that light that's out and you put it in the back of the Christmas tree, and she never knows the difference. Oh, yes, she does, my wife says. Okay, everybody got the difference, all right? Just wanted you to know that they exist, okay? If you go for your general, you'll see that components, which we're going to talk about in just a couple of minutes, they act differently depending if they're in series or in parallel, okay? All right, cool. Then they talk about multimeter. I sent you the links on basic multimeter operation. I'm going to have one here next class, and we'll actually play with one. And Kenneth sent me a note that says, my livestock fence pushes 5,000 volts, very little current. That's a good thing. You don't want your nose lighting up, okay? Just enough for a little tingle. Okay, so multimeters, everybody should have one. If you don't have one, buy one. They're really cheap. Harbor Freight sells them for about $4, and if you spend $10, they give you one free, and you'll always use it, okay? All right, cool. Then they came up with resistance. So we have these electrons flowing along, everything is fine, and then we got to put stuff in the middle of it to do things. So every time we put something in there, okay, it causes resistance to that circuit, okay? And they came up with these Ohm law circles. Really not invented by Ohm, but pretty close. All right, so here's what I want you to do here. This is super simple, okay? All you're going to do is you're going to figure out what it is you're trying to find. And then you're going to put your thumb over the circle, over the part that you have to find. And then you're just going to do what the rest of it tells you. Okay, everybody knows that there's an R here and an E here, right? It didn't show up on the scan, but you know that it's here, right? So what I strongly suggest to you, okay, on the exam, they give you scrap paper. The first thing you do is you draw 2 circles and you put EIR and PIE in it. Absolutely. And if you're too proud to do that, when I took my extra exam, that was the first thing I did. And it's the first thing I told my wife to do. And it works out great. You're nervous, you want to pass, you know, that kind of stuff. Foolproof method, right? So if you look at this example here in the bottom, it says we're given 2 amperes. Resistance is 10 ohms. No problem. Find E. So what do? Is you take and you put your thumb over to E, right? So you can do that. Go over to the screen and put your thumb over to E, right? And you know to find out the voltage, E equals I times R. E, and then you have I times R. Everybody understand? On here, okay, you're given the voltage. E is 12. The resistance is 6 ohms. What you're finding is I. You're looking for the current. So you put your thumb over. Come on, don't be afraid. Put your thumb on the I. Go ahead. No, I won't tell anybody. And then it's E over R. Divide E by R. Everybody got it? It's no harder than that. Okay? Same thing for this guy. Okay? Use the same methodology and practice it. And I want you to make sure you're comfortable with that. Okay? There are 2 questions on the exam. 2 possible. Everybody will get 1. A couple of people will get 2. Okay? And you should know how to do that. Any questions on this? Okay? Very, very simple. I told you it was super simple. Okay? And if you get stuck with the math, use your calculator that I told you to buy. That's not the reason I told you to buy the calculator. We're going to do something even cooler a little bit later when we get to antennas. But use the calculator if that's what you want. Okay? All right, cool. So here they talk about the same circle, power. Think of pie. My wife makes the world's best apple cinnamon pie on the planet. Okay? So when you want to figure something out, you draw the circle and you type in pi, my favorite. Okay? And then put your thumb over whatever you're looking for, and you're good to go. Very, very simple. Okay? Forget all this mumbo-jumbo stuff that they told you. Okay? Not really necessary. That's all I need you to know. See, I told you it was easy. Easy breezy. No problem at all. Okay. 2 types of current that we're going to talk about. AC and DC. Everybody kind of knows how that works, right? So AC, alternating current. That's this guy. And why do they call it that? Because the current cycles back and forth, up and down. Goes in one direction, goes in the other direction. That's AC. DC current looks more like this, okay? So it doesn't change directions at all, okay? Each of them have their own place in the world, okay? Yeah, go ahead.
I think your screen is frozen.
My screen is frozen? Is it really?
I don't know if it's just me. I'm still seeing the page which says resistance. I'm thinking you've gone down a few more pages.
Yeah, I have. Is everybody seeing the same thing?
No, Joe,
I'm good, Joe.
No, Joe, we're with you. Nope,
okay. It might be, let me just try resharing. Hold on.
Okay.
See if that's any better. Can you guys see me scroll on the page?
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
You're on resistance now, or you were.
Yeah.
Roger.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, I get a preview, so I know that I'm online, sir. So maybe it's just your computer. Give it a second or 2, and it should refresh, hopefully.
Okay, no problem. If not, I'll just close and log back in.
Okay. No, thank you. I'm on chapter 3, page 6. Okay. Okay. So AC and DC current. We use both of them, right? And that's all I really need you to know for right this second. All right. Let's talk about components. My favorite, one of my favorites here. Okay. So components, there's a couple of different ones that we're going to talk about. Okay. Resistors are the first ones, And resistors, guess what they do? They resist the flow of electrons, okay? Hence the name, resistor, okay? And you use them in things like valves. You control the flow of current. They serve a variety of functions. And they look like these bad boys here. You can have very small ones or very large ones, depending on what you need. Okay. Prabhu, yeah, if you could mute your phone, that'd be great. Okay, so that's what resistors do. They dissipate energy. They act like a braking system in the circuit, okay, and just slow things down so you can control that circuit a little bit more, okay? We're looking at the 50,000-foot view of these components. Capacitors, my favorite, okay? So capacitors, they charge up like a battery. You got to charge them. And they store energy electrically, electrical energy, right? And then they can discharge that energy either slowly or very quickly, okay? And that's their function in life. There are different types. This one here, which is flat, I'll have some of these for you to look at next class. They're called ceramic capacitors. Question on the test, okay? Why do we use ceramic capacitors? Answer, they're cheap, period. That's it. There are no other reasons, okay? They bite the big one, but they're cheap, okay? And capacitors go from there, and then they look like this. They look like little tubes, and capacitors get bigger as the power requirements increase. Why am I hot on capacitors? If you open up your power supply, which I do not recommend, guess what's in there? Okay, capacitors. And you will identify them. You will touch them. You will regret that, okay, that you touched them. I am telling you not to touch them, okay? The reason is, if we power down a power supply and then lights go out, those capacitors are still fully charged. Your nose will light up if you touch one, okay? Even a medium-sized capacitor can easily kill you. No problem, okay? No problem at all. Be careful with capacitors, okay? And what they do is they act as a stabilizer. It smooths out voltage. And again, they store electrical energy electrically. That's opposed to the inductor. I know you guys saw the video on inductor. The guy with the nail, and he put wrapped wire around it and connected to a battery, okay? So he took electrical energy and he converted it to a magnetic field. We were able to store energy magnetically, okay? This phenomenon is called inductance, okay? All right, so inductors, what I need you to know is capacitors store electrical energy in an electrical field, okay? And inductors store energy in a magnetic field. Question on the test, okay? Go ahead. Yes, sir.
When you wrap a wire around a nail, is it a magnet or is it a...
Yeah.
That's a magnet.
Yeah.
Magnet. Okay, right.
Yeah, so inductors by definition are magnetic, right? So if we create an inductor by taking a nail and wrapping a wire around it, it's going to become a magnet, electromagnet. That's how they work, okay? All right, I have a question, and I don't want an answer now. I want an answer on Tuesday. No cheating. Don't Google it. I want you to, actually you can Google it. You won't find the answer so easily. I have a question. Capacitors. We said that capacitors store energy. I forget. Patrick, how do we store energy in a capacitor? Say electrically.
They're stored in electrical field.
Excellent. All right. So, yeah. All right. So they store energy electrically. So can I ask a question? The question is, and I want an answer on Tuesday. Here's part of your homework. Is a battery a capacitor? That's the question. Okay? And I'm going to pick on everybody. Everybody's going to give me their answer next time. Okay? All right. That's the question. All right, cool. So this is how they measure things, okay? So they talk about amps are measures current. They're called amps, and capacitance and henries and all of that kind of stuff, hertz and ohms and resistance. Okay, so ohms, important for you to know, measures resistance. Wattage is power. Okay, and volt is voltage. Okay, cool. So try to get, if you're not familiar with these terms, try to become a little bit more familiar with them. Okay, anytime you see wire like this wrapped around a core of some kind, that's an inductor. Always, always, always. Okay? So I'm going to have a radio taken apart for next class. I just didn't get home in time enough to do it this class, and I'll show you some inductors wrapped this way. Anytime you see wire wrapped around in a coil structure, hold on, didn't switch to my pen. In a coil structure like this, that's an inductor. And that's also the schematic symbol for an inductor.
What does an inductor induce?
You know, it stores energy. How does it store? It stores energy.
Magnetic.
Magnetically, yeah. And we use that. Remember before the first class, I made you watch these videos with the pipe and the magnet? Remember that? And then there was the guy who had the inductor, and he passed the magnet, threw it back and forth real quick, and the LED lit up. The whole point here is magnetism and electricity are absolutely related to each other. I can convert one into the other. So in the circuit, yeah.
So an inductor is not a capacitor?
No, two different things. Two different things. They both work with electricity. One stores the electricity electrically, and one stores the electrons magnetically. Okay? Again, remember, what I'm telling you is not 100% true, but very close. Okay? And we use that because we change those electrons, how they're stored in a circuit. We change them all the time. We change it from electrical energy, we store it, we'll hold it back, we'll break it, slow it down, we'll store it magnetically. That's what makes electronic circuits work. The ability to change how they are stored and how they are manipulated. Okay? So we need resistors to slow things down. We need capacitors to store large amounts of electricity or electricity in an electrical format. And then sometimes we want to convert that electrical energy into a magnetic field. Okay? Depends on what we want to do with it. Okay? Does everybody understand that distinction? I'm already getting answers to my question, saying everybody's worried about the battery. No, I don't want your answer now. I'm going to ask I'll give you the right answer next class. Okay, so these are inductors, okay? So what I want you to know is that if you look at schematics, which we're getting to, folks, okay? So inductors look like this, okay? And resistors look like this in a schematic, right? And the reason for that is we're slowing things down, so the electrons have to go up and down and up and down, and we're slowing things down. So that's a resistor, okay? And that's an inductor, right? And then if we're fancy, we can do this, and that's a capacitor. That's what they look like in schematics, okay? These are the major components that you need to know. Let's see here. Wayne says the acronym for capacitors and inductors is ELI, the Iceman. That's exactly correct, Wayne. The inductive circuit voltage leads current. The capacitive circuit leads voltage. Okay, you're absolutely right. I don't want to get into that at this moment in time, Wayne, but you're absolutely correct. Thank you for that. Anyway, so these are what the schematic symbols look like roughly, okay? I want you to know that I aced art when I was in high school. I didn't, okay? I hated art. Anyway, any problems? We're good so far? All right, cool. All right, this section on reactance and impedance, the only thing I want you to know for right now, okay, is reactance and impedance, okay, actually slow down and work against the flow of electrons. That's what I want you to know for right now, okay? So they resist the flow of electrons, all right? And the big thing is, I want you to know that the letter Z represents impedance, okay? Don't worry about this. We'll further define this a little bit later. And this really doesn't belong here, okay? A very simple definition of resonance is when everything is when you've had a good day, when you have a good day and everything just goes your way, okay? That's resonance. Everything is at peace. Both sides of the equation balance, okay? You find out that you don't owe any money this month on your charge card. Everything is just perfect, okay? It's resonant, okay? When everything works well together, resonant. That's how we're going to define it right now, okay? So when I have my radio working with my antenna, and I say my antenna is resonant, okay, at a specific frequency, that means that it's working well, very efficiently at that particular frequency, okay? So everything is working well. Just take that definition for right now. All right, cool. Diodes, transistors, and integrated circuits. This is what they look like, okay? And let's talk about diodes. Diodes, very simple, okay? Think of Roach Motel, okay? So the electrons go in, but they don't come out. One-way valve, okay? So the electrons go in, but they can't back out. Very important that you understand that. Think of Roach Motel, okay? Transistors, two things. For this class, transistors only do two things. It's a question on the test, okay? Transistors can either switch something on or off, or they can amplify something. That's the only two things that they can do for the purposes of this exam. So I say transistor, you say either switch or amplifier. I say diode, you say Roach Motel, okay? And an integrated circuit is if you take a gazillion transistors, shrink them down, really shrink them down, and pack them into one chip. That's called an integrated circuit. An integrated circuit can have hundreds of millions of transistors. It's not unusual. Okay?
But they work together.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. It's amazing. It's the reason that you and I are having this conversation right now, that you can see my screen, integrated circuits. They literally took thousands and thousands and thousands of transistors, all doing different things, shrank it down to the size of a chip, which is about the size of your thumbnail, plugged it into a circuit board, and it makes a computer. That's how this technology is possible. Okay?
So transistors basically just transition you from one thing to another.
For the purposes of this exam, yes, they do other things technically, but for the purposes of this exam, transistors are either on-off switches or amplifiers. That's all you need to know, okay, to pass the exam. What do they really do? They do a lot more than that. They're within the group of, actually at this stage, they're in the group of semiconductors. They can act and do other things. But for the purposes of this exam, and there is a question on the test, on all 5 tests, asks you, what device handles switching? Answer, transistor. Okay? What device handles amplification? Answer, transistor. Okay? What device allows electrons to flow in one direction? Diodes. Period. Okay? A perfect example of a diode is, you know those lamps, those LED lamps that my wife loves to put out in the lawn to make the lawn look pretty? And they've got a solar cell here, like this, right? And there's a stake, and it goes into the ground, and then it has this little bulb, this little LED bulb here. The reason that this works, if we take an exploded view of this, you will see that there is the solar cell, okay? There is a diode, okay, here. And then there's a battery, plus, minus, okay? And then there's an LED. There's a little LED bulb. What's the purpose of this diode here? Well, one-way electrons, right? The sun hits the solar cell, it charges the battery. When the light goes out, when the sun goes down, this lights up. If we didn't have this here, okay, electrons would flow back up to the solar cell and heat them. So all solar cells, even the ones on the highway that are solar-powered lights, they work this way. You must have a diode here. Otherwise, the circuit will not work correctly. Okay, it'll never light up.
So, in your example, then, does that mean that the battery is charged but can never discharge back into the solar panel?
Correct. Exactly correct. Exactly correct. And the solar cell would heat up. You know, that's how it would dissipate the energy. All right. All right. Cool. All right. Protective components. I don't need to go over this, right? Everybody knows what a fuse looks like. Okay. Please, ladies and gentlemen, don't stick a penny in the fuse box. Okay. All right. Cool. And then they have these other stuff, GFI circuits. So if it detects water, it trips automatically. Blah 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 blah. You have switches. There's whole bunches of different switches: single pole, single throw, single pole, double throw, single pole, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And relay circuits, which are just, you turn a switch to turn on a bigger switch to a bigger motor. That's what a relay does, okay? You can use one of these tiny little switches to, actually it's what you do when you turn on the ignition to your car. Next time you turn on your car, it's a little switch, right? And it goes to a relay and it operates the starter motor. So you can't really switch the starter motor with that little button or that little switch that's in your steering wheel column. It would be too big, so you use a relay. Okay. All right, cool. Here's the best part. We are going to learn how to read schematics. Piece of cake. Okay. All right. So let's go through it. Nice and easy. Resistor is that squiggly line I told you about. Okay. Capacitors, they look like this. When they want to identify the polarity, sometimes they're polarized, okay? Sometimes they're just non-polarized. It doesn't care which end is positive and which end is negative. Sometimes they do, and this is what they look like, okay? Anytime you see the squiggly line, okay, that's an inductor, absolutely an inductor, okay? Diodes look like this. They have a little arrow, and remember, that's to show you which way the electrons are flowing and not the other way, okay? When we get a diode with these two little arrows, they're light-emitting diodes. Everything works on light-emitting diodes nowadays. So next time you buy Christmas tree lights, you'll see that they're LEDs, okay? They use up 1/10 of the energy that a regular incandescent bulb does, and they last 20 times longer, all right? Battery, okay, they look like this. The only one that you need to know for the exam is this guy, but you're in my class, so we're going to move it up a notch here, because I want you to, because it's just cool. This is ground, and this is ground to chassis. So if we ground the chassis, you can ground components to the chassis of the radio, okay? So you touch one metal part of the radio somehow, or the circuit board. So I want you to know this one too, okay? So this is regular ground to ground, so you attach it to that wire in the middle, right, of your socket, that's ground, or you stick a steel rod into the, an iron rod into the ground with a sledgehammer, and you attach your ground wire to that, and this is your grounding it to some part of the radio. Okay? We're okay so far? All right, cool. I want you to know this guy, just a lamp. It looks like a bulb, doesn't it? This is an antenna. Okay? That's what that looks like. And then these circles. Anytime you see a circle without numbers in them, okay, it's a transistor. Okay? Anytime you see a circle without numbers inside of them, it's a transistor. When they have numbers inside of them, it's a connector of some kind. Okay? It tells you what pin goes to where. Okay? The one that I'm interested in you knowing is this FET, field effect transistor. Okay? If you look at this transistor versus this transistor, you'll see that the layout is different. And the question on the exam will be, which transistor has a gate? This is called a gate. And the answer is field effect transistor. We will remember that because in order to go to the field, you have to go through the gate. Okay? That's the saying. If you want to get to the field, you have to go through the gate. So when they ask you which component has a gate, you have to go through the gate to get to the field, right? So it would be a field effect transistor. All right? You okay? Yes? All right. If you're not, please stop me. Okay? So anytime you put an arrow through a component, it's variable, which means we can adjust it. We can do that here in the inductor. We can do it here in the capacitor. We can do it here in the resistor. Okay? We know that this is a diode. Okay? And this is an LED. Are we all good? Yes? No? Maybe? Yes? I'm assuming everybody's okay.
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, awesome. All right, so here we go. I'm going to start picking on people. I'm starting backwards, and I'm going to point to something, and you're going to tell me what it is. Wayne, how are you, Wayne?
I'm well, Joe. How are you?
Good, good. What is this, Wayne?
That is a chassis ground.
Ah, beautiful. You're the man. Wasimi, how are you, sir? Wasim? Is it Wasim? Wasim? Wasim, you there?
He's typing.
Oh, he's typing. Okay. Not yet. All right, while he's typing, we're going to go to Tom. Hey, Tom, how are you?
Doing great.
Good.
Excuse me.
Hey, Tom, what is this?
Looks like a transistor.
That's it. That's all you need to know. Okay. Sean? Taunu, right? Sean, you said I can call you Sean, right?
Yep.
What is this guy?
Yep,
What's
Sean.
this guy?
Yep.
What is that?
This is a incandescent lamp.
Beautiful. Fantastic. See how easy it is? No problem. Ronald, what is this guy? What's this guy do?
I don't remember.
Okay, whenever you see those lines and it's got a plus and a minus, usually it's a battery.
Oh.
Okay?
Yeah.
No problem. Robert, what's this guy?
A resistor.
That's it. Prahub, what is this, sir? What is, actually, I'm going to make it a little tougher for you. What is this guy?
That's a capacitor.
Perfect, sir. Excellent, excellent, excellent. You guys are experts here. Patrick, what is this guy?
I can't see where your arrow is.
I'll try to circle. Hold on, see it. How about this guy? Can you see it now? What's this guy?
Yeah, that's a diode.
It's okay. What kind of diode?
LED.
That's it. Whenever you see the two arrows, it's an LED. Excellent, excellent. Patrick, hold on, Patrick. Patrick, what's this?
Where are you?
I'm right here. S1. What does that look like?
Switch.
That's a switch. Excellent, excellent. Miranda, How are you?
I'm here.
Good. What is this?
Type of inductor?
I'm sorry, a what?
The type of inductor?
No. Did you say inductor?
Yes.
Okay, it's an inductor. Good job. Lisa? How are you, Lisa?
I'm here.
Okay. What is this?
Okay, give me a second. Don't go away.
Me? I wouldn't think of it.
That right there?
Yeah, what is that?
It's a
What's
male.
that look like? I'm sorry?
Like a male?
Yeah, it's
a
a
20-volt AC wiring. I don't know what that is.
Perfect. Yeah, it's a plug. So it's what you plug power into. I mean, no problem. All right, cool. Excellent job. How about Linda? Linda, if you can't, if I can't hear you, then you can just type your answer. Linda, what is this? She didn't answer me.
Yeah, she typed it in. She was.
Did she? What'd she say?
She answered diode. She said diode.
That's exactly right. I'm sorry, I didn't scroll down. Thank you so much, guys. Yep, Linda, you're the best. Okay, we're going to skip past Lou because he's the ringer, so he'll know what this is. Okay. Let's go to Leslie. Leslie.
Uh-huh.
How are you?
Good.
Should I take something hard or something easy?
No, I'm nervous.
No, come on. What is that? This guy here.
That guy is a capacitor.
Perfect. And hey, listen, by the way, I have a question because I forgot. How does a capacitor store electricity?
It does that in an electrical.
Perfect. Electrical field. Stores it electrically. Okay.
Yep.
Excellent. Excellent job. Kenneth, how are you?
I'm good. I'm awake anyway.
Good.
What's up?
All right, cool. And this guy was a what, you said? Ken?
That's an inductor.
And how does it store electricity?
Magnetically.
Perfect. Perfect. Gio, how are you?
Good.
All right, tell me what this is. This guy here.
Where are you?
Right here. BT1. I'm up in the top. This guy here. What is that bad boy?
B.
It's a battery, right?
Plus and minus.
That's it. Battery. You got it. Okay. Dana?
Yes.
Okay. What is this guy here? T1.
Transformer.
You're awesome. You're awesome. You're awesome. That's
Looks
exactly
like two inductors together. But
That's
whatever.
right. Hey, it's all yours. Explain it to him, Dana.
Oh yeah, right. Say it looks like
no,
two
you did right.
inductors.
You did it perfectly. Yeah. So a transformer. Transformer changes one type of power to another type of power, right? Yeah. So it can turn AC current into DC current. It can turn 12 volts into whatever. It can turn 120 volts into 12 volts. These are all parts of the things you can do, and they're called transformers. And it really looks like, since this is an inductor, hey, this looks like an inductor, and this looks like an inductor with some stuff in the middle, okay? And that's exactly what a transformer is, okay? It's just a couple of inductors, okay? And that's why we use inductors to change things. So that's why a 12-volt power supply gives you 12 volts to power your radio, but you plug it into your house current. Well, there's a transformer in there to do that, okay? And Charlotte, how are you, Charlotte? I can't hear you, Charlotte. Can you hear me? Or are you just mad at me?
No, I'm not mad at you.
All right, good. I was getting worried there for a second. Hey, Charlotte.
Yes.
What is this guy here? DS1.
The light emitting diode.
Perfect. Awesome job. Awesome job. You guys did fantastic. So you see, it's not so hard. Okay. And what I'm going to do, actually, next class, if I can find this, hold on. Maybe I can find it a little faster here. Hold on. Give me a second, and we'll see if we can. No, I guess not. Okay, I'm going to, let's do this, just for fun, because you guys are really good and you know this stuff. Okay, so we're going to just pick one at random. Let's pick something complicated, okay? All right. That's not really a good one. Hold on. Let me, well, you know what? Let's hold on to that. I'll bring something that's a little bit easier. Anyway, so you've got the basic understanding of how to read a schematic, okay? And I'm going to have some more exercises for you next time, okay? But there's nothing more or less than reading a schematic this way. Actually, we should be able to. Let's see if we can find something really quick here. All right, cool. All right, so here we go. I just pulled this out at random, right? So we're going to start with Charlotte because she was so good. Okay, so this is for a portable tube preamp, whatever the hell that is, okay? So what is this, Charlotte? Dana, you're next. Charlotte, what is that?
Is a resistor.
Perfect. Dana, what's this?
That's a ground, not a chassis
Perfect.
ground.
Perfect. Yeah, just a regular ground. Excellent. Eric, tell me what, let's see. Let's find something cool here. What is this?
Oh. It's a diode, but is it a variable diode?
Yeah, so it's called a Zener diode. Whenever you see the little squiggly line, looks like a Z after a couple of Jack Daniels, if that's the way you draw a Z. So that's called a Zener diode. But diode is fine. That's all I was interested in, okay? Good job. And Gio, how about this guy? What is this?
Has it got two lines to it?
Yep, it does, sir.
Not a gate, though.
No. Two lines that don't have anything in the middle is usually a capacitor.
But I thought they were the other one.
No.
So, two lines vertically or horizontally is a capacitor.
Uh-huh. So, and it's hard to see in this diagram, but they actually label them. They say C for capacitor. These guys will say, like this one says R17, I know it's a resistor, okay? That kind of stuff. But the point is, look, you're able to read these diagrams at this point, okay? With a little practice, it's very, very, very easy, okay? And you can get the real complicated ones, and you'll read it just as easily. No big deal. We can switch to something that looks, oh my God, what is this, okay? But no problem, okay? We'll go through it nice and easy. I just picked these at random, okay? So Kenneth, tell me what, I know it's hard to see. What is this guy? Can you tell me?
Move your pointer. Well, that didn't help at all, did it?
All right, this little guy here. Can you see that?
Oh, that's a ground.
That's not really fair because it's hard to see.
Yeah, it's a chassis ground.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So the point here is that with a little practice, okay, you can read all of this stuff, okay? It's not a big deal. We didn't have to like hurt anybody or anything. It's very simple, okay? Everybody got the general idea? All right, cool. All right, cool. So, any questions on any of the stuff?
Yes.
Yes, go ahead.
I need the reading material.
Joe, how are you?
I'm good. I don't have the reading material to go back on, so I need to get it.
Okay. This is Joe, right? Joe Giacinto?
Yes. Well, I don't know because I screwed up the last, the capacitor. So no, it's not me. It's somebody else.
Hey, don't feel bad. I screwed up the battery.
Hey, Joe, did you hear the talk I gave on the repeaters?
No, because I was trying to download the iOS on my iPad. But I'm not going to get into it.
Okay. Anyway, I gave a really great talk about repeaters and how to use them in Nassau County in case you lose power with the hurricane that's coming. But now you'll just have to call me on the phone and I'll explain it to you, okay? You missed a great talk. It was awesome. It was awesome, Joe.
So repeaters, you're talking about beans? Are you talking about beans?
No, I'm talking about repeaters. How to get to the Aries repeater, how to listen to weather, 162.55 megahertz.
No,
hello, is this on? Is this on? Hello? Okay. Anyway, I'll talk to you about them offline. Anyway, I just wanted, since I know he has radios, okay, ready to go, he could tune in here in New York. He could tune in 162.55 for weather, NOAA weather, 24 hours a day. He could also monitor our club's repeater, which is one of the largest on the East Coast, which is 146.850. And he also has the Aries repeater in case he needs emergency information on where there's gasoline and electricity and when local's coming to your house and stuff like that. But you know what, I'll tell him offline because that's okay, no problem. All right, cool. We're going to talk about the different components, okay, of what's in your radio. So an oscillator, okay, ooh, it's like a flux capacitor. So oscillators, all an oscillator is, it produces a specific signal at a given frequency. So every time I operate my VFO, which Joe, you know VFO is what? What does VFO stand for? Variable frequency. Come on, frequency. Joe. You're killing me here, man. Come on.
Yeah, I said it, variable frequency. What do you want from me?
Yeah. Okay, so the VFO, as I adjust the knob, you can see the frequency changing, okay? So in the old days, okay, in the old days, and I hate to admit that I remember those days, but we didn't have this option in radio. You would have to buy these crystals. They were set for one specific frequency. You'd have to go to Radio Shack or whatever. You'd order the frequency. It would take about 10 days for the crystal to be made and shipped back to you, and you would plug it into your radio, and then, of course, you were tired of that frequency and you wanted to go up to this frequency, and you had to go back to Radio Shack and buy another crystal and pop it into your radio, and you only had 6 slots, so you could only listen to 6 things at the same time, talk on 6 channels. So they did away with all of that. So now they have these oscillators, okay, variable frequency oscillators. And we can tune anything we want, okay? That's what the oscillators does, okay? That's it. That's as hard as it gets. We put them through a driver, okay? So we have this oscillator here, this bad boy. That's how the whole process starts. Let's see if I can make that a little bit bigger for you guys. Is that better? Oscillator, we put it through a driver to a power amplifier. In between the driver and the power amplifier, we add modulation, which could be a key, it could be phone, it could be digital, and then it goes out the amplifier, out through your antenna. Okay? That's all it means. Now, sometimes listening can be a real pain in the neck, especially on crummy nights. For example, like tonight, right? So we're going to tune in, we're going to try 40 meters again. Okay? I have a question while we're doing this. Hey, Linda, I know you can't talk to me, but you can answer my question. I'm on 40 meters. How long is my antenna? And while Linda's responding to that question, Lou says, I think I still have some crystals. Lou is one of our most esteemed members in our club, and he remembers I still have crystals. Linda, did you type in your
I still have my
there?
first crystal.
Yeah, Linda, yeah, 120. Go ahead. I'm sorry, sir. Somebody had another message? Another question? Comment? No? Yes? No? All right. Anyway, this, you're listening to a RIDI signal here. Let's see if I can get somebody's voice. Oh, there. You can hear something just above the noise. And of course, as soon as I get to them, they stop talking. Let's see if I can get a Morse code in here someplace. Okay, there's Morse code, CW. Kind of noisy. So I can add filters here in this section.
Where's your cursor?
Right here.
Okay, yep, thank you.
And if I do this, that sounds much better. I can add this. And then I can adjust it down here in the lower left-hand corner. I can adjust the note. So I can adjust these filters to get a clearer signal. So that's this signal versus without this. See how much better it sounds? Okay, so that's the purpose of filters on the radio. Okay, and there's a filter for everything. Why? Because ham radio people are crazy. Okay.
Joe, I have a question. Prabhu?
Yeah, go ahead. What's your question?
Yeah, so in what you demonstrated, I thought you mentioned that was CW Morse code.
Yes, and right? CW.
Yes, I know the days of telegraph Morse code was used. Is it still being used? Is it for any specific purpose? Do you know?
Absolutely, absolutely. You'll get people that will not use phone at all on amateur radio. They only use CW. Why? Because you need a minimal amount of power to get through. Okay, and CW always, no matter what, gets through. Okay, so there are a group of people, QRP people, right, low power people, that use CW and on less than 1 watt, okay, talk to every place on the planet Earth. So from New York, they talk to Japan, they talk to Greece, they talk to Africa, they talk to India, they talk to China on less than 1 watt. Just to explain that to you, the Voyager space probe, which is currently 320 million miles from Earth right now, the Voyager sends back photographs and signals and images using a technology very similar to CW, and the radio that's transmitting from 312 million miles away is 2 watts. Okay. 1, 2. So yes, it's still used. It's actually the most efficient form of radio. Okay, and I do offer a CW class to get you started on that. And I'm not a CW expert, but I can cheat really well, and it's certainly worth listening to. Okay, if we go back there and listen to the upper bands, you'll see people are on CW. Yes, sir.
That program that you had up there, is that something special, or is that just when you get your license, or what was that program?
Yeah, it's called Ham Radio Deluxe, okay? And there's a free version, okay? It's available as a free download on the internet, and it has all these cute features. You weren't here for the first part, right, Joe? You didn't see the satellite? Okay.
I didn't.
So, for example, I demonstrated this early on, okay? And you can actually see the satellites tracking where they are. You can see the maps. You can see what's happening. You can see, it's amazing. It keeps your logbook for you. It tells you what's going on. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool program. And I'll send you the link if you, yeah.
Is that something we can get?
Yeah.
Is that something?
Yeah, I'll send you the link for it. You can download it. And what this is just controlling my radio, so it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing versus looking at my little tiny screen on my radio. Okay, it's just easy.
Joe.
Yeah, I'll send you guys the link for Ham Radio Deluxe. Great program, worth your time. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you could send me the link too. I would appreciate that.
Yeah, I'll send it to the entire class. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool, and you need a cable to hook it up between your radio and your computer, but then you can control everything here. Okay, let's see if we can find somebody else.
Hey, Joe.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there right next to your radio using Ham Radio Deluxe, that doesn't count as remote control, right?
No, it does not.
Okay.
No, it counts as a computer-controlled interface, but that's fine. Okay. And as we get a little further into the class, you'll see that this also decodes Morse code for you automatically. So somebody will be in Morse, yet you'll be able to actually read and respond to them. It'll convert Morse code into words that you can read, and then you type, it converts it to Morse code. So that's another great way of learning Morse code. It's an amazing, amazing program. Okay.
You have to have a license to access it?
You need a what, sir?
Do you have to have a license to access it?
As long as you promise not to transmit, no. You can listen as much as you want. It's only you only need a license to transmit.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, so you can listen in and practice with it. And there's a steep learning curve with this, okay? I mean, I've been using this for years. I don't understand everything that's on it, but there's a million things you can do. If you have a variable antenna with a motor, it'll rotate your antenna. I mean, you have forums that you can talk to other people. I mean, there's just no end to the things that this program does. It's really good. Plus, it controls your radio down here. I know some of you have already bought your radios, and you can control how much power you use. You can control the filters on your radio. It's a very, very cool program. And the best part of it is the free version is every bit as good as the paid version. This happens to be the paid version because I felt bad after about 5 years of using it that I hadn't chipped in to the guy who wrote it, so I sent them, I don't know, $39 or something I pay a year for him, but he's done such a fantastic job, I just had to do it. But certainly get the free version, play with it. I think you'll really enjoy it. Okay?
Joe, I got a quick question. Oh, can I go back?
Yes, sir.
When
Go back to the Ham Radio Deluxe, sure.
Well, when you're changing different bands, are you changing different antennas, or do you have a multi-band antenna?
Boy, that's a great question. That's a great question. The question is, so here's the deal. So my wife is an extra, right? And the emergency coordinator for Oyster Bay, and I'm a ham, and my son's a ham. Yet my wife said, if I see an antenna, your life is over. Okay, so that's the problem. Okay, so I'm only allowed stealth antennas. So you come to my house, I defy you to find my antennas. You'll never find them, right? So I have to use one antenna for all of these bands. What I use is another device called a tuner, okay? And we're going to get into that. they're called tank circuits, and I'll demonstrate that to you. So one antenna, and what I do is electronically, I either shorten or lengthen the antenna to meet the requirements of that specific band, right? Because at 20 meters, how long is my antenna going to be?
60-something feet.
Right, and at 80 meters, how long is that antenna?
240.
Yeah, okay, so I can't do that, right? Because my wife would kill me, and I love my wife, right? 43 years, and we never had
Wait.
I won. All right, go ahead. Say that again?
How the hell did you know that?
How
the hell did you know that?
Because I explained this to the class. You got in late for that class, Joseph.
You got smart people in your class, I tell you.
Oh, no, yeah. Joseph. Anyway, so what you do, Joseph, we defined a meter as being 3 feet, okay? And we go by these bands, so they're all in meters, right? This is the 80 meter band. So approximately, and I told you this is not exactly correct because a meter is actually 3.28 feet, but approximately, how long does the antenna have to be to go on 80 meters? Well, you multiply by 3, 240. 15 meters, 45 feet, right? 10 meters, 30 feet, approximately, in that area. It's always a little bit more than the rough estimation.
Okay. You were just converting meters into feet. I didn't know that. Okay, great.
Yeah, and yeah, basically, okay? All right, cool. So that's how he knows that. Okay, any other questions on Ham Radio Deluxe? Okay, no? Okay. All right, let's see where we are here. All right, so filters. So there's a big filter for everything, okay? And filters are made from resistors, inductors, and capacitors. That's why we had to learn about them, okay? And this is what you were talking about. Somebody had asked me the question. Tuned circuits made of inductors and capacitors. It's a thing called a tuner. I will show you mine next class. It sits under my radio, okay? I press a button, and it automatically changes, electronically changes the length of the antenna, okay? That's what that does. Sometimes we have attenuators. If I'm very close to another station and I'm just overpowering them, I have to attenuate or, reduce the signal strength. We have an attenuator, okay? And then they talk about all of these filters, okay? There's a high-pass filter, a band-pass filter, a low-pass filter, a notch filter. You name it, we have a filter for it, okay? All I really want you to know is that these filters exist, okay? I don't know that there are any questions on the exam about the filters, but we can apply these filters, okay, to make the signal come in stronger, okay, to get where we want. Sometimes, especially for me, I'm a QRP guy, right? And as you know, Robert, QRP means what?
Low power.
That's it. Okay. So since I'm a low power guy, okay, the signals I receive are very, very weak sometimes, and the signals I send are very weak. But that's the fun of it for me. I mean, I've talked to Greece on 1 watt, from New York to Greece, 1 watt. How did that guy work me? Now, he was really good. How did he get a hold of me? I'm transmitting 1 watt. Well, I'm sure he had to put in a whole bunch of filters, okay, to really be able to receive me. The beautiful part of being QRP is if you get on the air and you say W2BMP QRP, or you go CQ, 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 W2BMP QRP, everybody wants to talk to you. Everybody wants to talk to you because you're a QRP station. I talk to this guy. Holy cow, I can put that badge on my desk, okay? So it's great, but you have to know how to work these filters, all right? But I don't want you to stress over the filters too much. For the gentleman who just got the ICOM 7100, that's what all those filters mean.
Thank you.
No problem. High pass, low pass. You can listen. I certainly encourage you to listen. And then play with the filters, and you'll get an idea of what they do and what they don't do. Okay?
Perfect.
All right, cool.
Joe?
Yes, sir.
On the, let's just say quickly, on the filter arrangement, is that a filter that just you, when you apply those, it is for the received signal, or does that, the more filters you put on, does that take away from your transmit also?
No, they're just for receive mostly. You can modify the transmit signal, but these filters are more commonly associated with receive.
Okay.
Okay? It's so that you can listen to a dummy like me. Okay? And a QRP guy. Okay?
Okay.
And again, once you get into this a little bit more and you start talking to people all over the place, for me, the ultimate would be to talk to a QRP guy in Japan. And they're all over the place in Japan. I mean, that's what I live for, right? And I try to find them, and then I have to notch down my filters, make sure I can hear them. To me, that's the achievement. Because I'm a technology guy, right? So I'm a computer engineer. And I've made my living as a computer engineer, very high-tech stuff. So after doing this for a while, I realized, again, the biggest joke was during Superstorm Sandy, when Nassau County was not prepared to do anything. They were useless, totally useless. Okay? My uncle lives down the block from me. You know, he's an invalid. God forbid he had a heart attack. How was I going to call an ambulance? So I rely on radio being basic communications. I knew that I was always connected because I could just talk to areas and stuff like that. So I don't believe in a lot of high-tech stuff on the amateur radio, although it's available. I have no idea how I got to that. But anyway, modulators are just a circuit inside the radio that allow us to add voice. Okay? They're called modulators. You need a modulator and a demodulator so that once the radio wave hits the receiving station, it will demodulate the signal and turn it into voice. Okay? And a mixer. Mixer is exactly like a modulator. What it does is it takes two different frequencies and turns it into a third frequency. Okay? So it acts like a modulator. It adds modulation to it, but it takes two separate signals, okay, and makes it into a third frequency. Okay? Sometimes into two frequencies. And the mixers are used in both transmitters and receivers. What I need you to know is this sucker right here. It starts here. The mixer is designed to combine two RF signals and shift one of them to a third frequency. And here's the question. And why do I take the time to do that? Somebody tell me why I take the time to do this. Because it's on the test. Okay.
It's on the test.
So make sure you understand that one. Okay. All right. We're going to get into receivers next time. I just want to we only have a few minutes. I wanted to explain something to you. I got a lot of questions from people saying, what kind of radio should I get? Okay. So what I suggest that you do to start off with, the simplest radio, go to Amazon.com, okay, and type in Baofeng. Okay, these are cheap Chinese radios. Okay, this is what they look like. Here, they're a whopping $28. Okay, they work on 2 meter and 70 centimeter. Okay, so you can work 2 meter, you can work 70 centimeter. They are fine. Please, please, please don't hit the transmit button until you have a license. Okay, but you can get one of these. Okay. They're $28. They are not the world's best radio, okay? They're kind of junky, but for 28 bucks, if you lose it or it gets wet or you drop it in the swimming pool like I have done, you're only out $28, okay? Never, ever operate any radio without an antenna. You will blow it up, okay? So make sure you do that. And if you're going to get a Baofeng radio or one of its clones, okay, there is a site called Miklor. I'll send it to you as well, miklor.com. Okay, Joe, your radio is here too. And this site is totally dedicated to all different types of Chinese radios. Baofeng's here. Just click on the one that you own. It tells you everything. It's got English owner's manual, frequently asked questions, how to program, everything about it. Miklor, M-I-K-L-O-R. Okay? And for a beginning radio, it is fine. Okay? Not a lot of money, and you guys know how to find out where your repeaters are, right? Just Google repeaters on in Google or Yahoo, whatever you like. Type in ham radio repeater. Hit enter. Pick the first guy. Okay? You can just pick your state or type in your zip code. Ronald, what's your zip code?
11366.
Okay, so Ronald wants to figure it out. He hits enter, and these are all the repeaters near him. Okay? And you can, once you go to the Miklor site, you'll know how to program your repeater, your radio, and you can start listening right away. Again, those radios are only for 2 meter and 70 centimeters, but that's okay because that's where most of your privileges are at the moment. Okay? And it's a good way to get started. And you'll at least have access to emergency transmissions should, heaven forbid, you ever need it. Okay?
Quick
Any
question
questions?
about the book.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can
What's
you
your
hear me?
question? Yes, I can hear you.
The book makes references to a website that corresponds to the book, and that there are various tutorials. Are they video or just text?
They're just text. They're just text.
Okay.
If you want, I can. We're recording these classes because somebody reminded me. There's also a great 6-hour video on this whole class done by the ARRL. Nowhere near as much fun as with me, but not a bad video. I can send that to you guys as well.
That'd be great.
No problem. No problem. Any questions on any of this stuff? We good?
I have a question on repeaters.
Sure.
You dial in your local repeater. What does that do for you? Do the repeaters daisy chain together, or is it just however far that particular tower is going to reach, that's what you get?
Depends on the repeater. Depends on the repeater. At my club, we own 7 repeaters, okay? And we can go pretty far. I think we can get out to almost the end of Long Island. We're pretty close to that. And we go all the way into Pennsylvania, actually sometimes further. We can't, in our club, we can daisy chain them together. Some repeaters in California, for example, the ham radio capital of the planet, okay, you can get all the way from San Diego all the way up to San Francisco on the same repeater because the repeaters link, okay? Other places, a small repeater, you'll only get, you only get 25, 30, 40 miles. And it depends on the type of repeater that it is as well. Next class, I'm going to show you a different type of radio called DMR, where with the same handheld walkie-talkie, or we call them HTs, from your living room with no other antenna, you can talk to anybody on the planet Earth, and you will be licensed to use it as a technician. So, but you need to have a DMR repeater nearby, but depends on the repeater is the answer. All right, so I'll send you guys an email with some stuff that we promised I was going to send you. And for next class, please make sure you understand everything else in Chapter 3. We're going to finish that up, and we're going to do Chapters 4 and 5 next week, 4, 5, and 6, okay? Because it goes pretty fast after that. I'll also send you a link to a site that I want you to go to start practicing for your exam. It's called hamstudy.org. It is the one we will use at the end of the class, so I make sure you guys are prepared, okay? And I'll send you that link as well. All right? Okay, everybody, have a great weekend.
Thanks, Jim.
Stay well, and I'll see you guys next Tuesday.
Take care, everybody.
Thank
All
you very
right.
much.
Have a good evening. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.